Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. So sit back, relax and enjoy some satisfying stories. A dad at a preschool I taught at told me how to calm his daughter down, but I knew it wouldn't work out like he thought it would. I took a few years off of college to figure out what I wanted to major in, and during that time I worked at a really great preschool. This was a Montessori school in a really high-end area, so the parents were all pretty wealthy. A significant number of the children had live-in nannies, and the staff and I saw the kids more often than their parents got to. For the most part, the parents were extremely nice and respectful, albeit a little absent. I was a guide in a 3 to 6 classroom, and absolutely adored all of my littles. In the morning, we had hookup/drop-off lines where the cars lined up and staff removed the children from car seats and walked them to their classrooms. This made the transition from home to school much easier than if the parents walked their child in. It also kept the parents from lingering in the classroom and disrupting the children's work cycle too much. For children that could walk, they were also expected to carry their own backpack and lunchboxes. Some days, of course, kids just had bad days, and we would help carry their things in. One morning, one of my 3-year-olds was having a rough transition, and sobbed the entire time we were getting out of the car. Her dad was talking on Bluetooth and seemed frustrated with the situation, but didn't say anything to me. I got the child out of the car, still sobbing, and asked her if she wanted to carry her backpack, and that I could carry her lunchbox. She seemed to like this compromise, and handed me her lunchbox while I helped her put her backpack on. She is still sniffling a little, but calming down overall. The dad, still talking on his Bluetooth, pulls up to drive away, but rolls his window down and gestures at me. Child and I stop and I look at him curiously, thinking he was going to tell his daughter he loved her or goodbye. Instead, he snappily tells me, "Well, if you would just give her her lunchbox to carry, she would stop crying." And then he looked expectantly at the lunchbox. I didn't want to anger this dad, but I knew dang well that his little girl did not feel like carrying her lunchbox. I need to go into a little more detail here because these were not small lunchboxes. They were big, bulky, and probably weighed about half as much as some of these small children. They had to be big enough to fit every bit of a child's lunch in individualized glass Tupperware containers. Every child carried the same lunchbox, and the lid could snap on and off, but it wasn't supposed to. Anyway, I looked at the father and said, "Of course, I'll let her carry it," and hand the girl the lunchbox. In a complete shriek, she yells, "I don't want this!" and proceeds to slam the lunchbox into the concrete walkway, causing the lid to break off and all of her lunch items to go rolling around the parking lot. And she immediately starts sobbing again. I simply looked up to make eye contact with Dad, and he looked so embarrassed. He didn't say a word, and he just slowly rolled up his passenger side window and drove away. After morning hookup was over, we had to call him to bring his daughter another lunch because her main portions were ruined. Edit, it was called hookup because we would hook up the car seats for the children when they would get in and out of the car. It was just the pickup/drop-off line, but that's what it was always called in our school. Wow, that guy seems like a really good parent. I mean, just rolling down your window and driving away, not even saying, "Oh, you're alright," like, jeez. Never leave a spill? You got it. Quite some time ago, I used to work at Wal-Mart, and honestly, it was by far the worst job I have ever had. I could go on for hours about all the horror stories I have from that place. One story in particular I feel is a good fit here. You see, the store I worked in had a rule that if you see a spill, you are to guard the area to keep customers from slipping and falling. You were not allowed to leave the spill for any reason while you flagged down another employee so that they could fetch cleaning supplies. Only managers and the cleaning crew had radios. I understand the logic here, as a lawsuit would certainly cost much more than an hourly employee's time standing next to us until it was cleaned up. However, there are a few issues with this in practice. I worked the evening shift in the meat department, and most days I was the only person in my department. I was situated between frozen foods and produce, which more often than not only had one-person shifts as well, but they also closed much earlier than my department. This meant that I was the only person in my corner of the store for about half of my shift. If I came across a spill, there was no telling how long I would have to wait around for another employee to come by because there was literally nobody else working in or around my area. Also, being in the meat department, we had multiple cleaning stations all around. One was always a few steps away. One day, while working alone, I noticed a small spill, so I stood next to it per procedure for about 10 minutes. In this time, nobody, customer nor coworker, had even entered my view. I couldn't help but think how dumb this was, as I could see a cleaning station just on the other side of a bunker. I decided to throw in the flag and just go get the cleaning supplies and take care of it myself, because even if a customer did come around, I could still see the spill and easily call out to them to watch their step. Unsurprisingly, I was able to make the round trip without any incidents. As I was cleaning it, a manager came walking up and took notice of me. "What happened here?" "Just a spill, I've got it all sorted." "Did you just happen to have cleaning supplies on you?" "No, but they were just right there. I was able to fetch them without losing sight of the spill." "That's not how we do things. Someone could have gotten hurt." "No, as I could have called to anyone that came near it. I was never more than a few steps away." "Doesn't matter. You should have stood next to the spill and waited for someone else to come by." This went on for a few minutes, but the manager was not budging, so I conceded. That was not good enough for him, as he then proceeded to write me up for negligence and unsafe work practices. I was livid, but I was also a college student and needed the job, so I kept quiet and returned to my shift. A week or two later, as I was once again the only person working in my corner of the store, I happened upon another spill. This time, I shrugged and decided to guard it as if my job depended on it. I checked my watch and noticed that I had about 3 hours left on my shift, and had a small laugh at the thought that I might be standing in that spot guarding a puddle instead of closing my department. 10 minutes passed. 30 minutes passed. 1 hour passed. Around this time, I was bored out of my mind, but then I heard a call over the intercom system that made it so much more worth it. Ahem. "We need an associate from the meat department to the back for a truck." This was followed by a few other calls from other departments for their trucks arriving as well. I started laughing out loud at this because I knew that this meant that the very few people that were likely to come by my department were now at the loading dock, unloading trucks while I stood guard over my puddle. A few minutes passed before I heard the second call. Ahem. "We need an associate from the meat department to the back for a truck." I just stood there counting the lights on the ceiling. 1 hour left on my shift, and there still had not been a single fellow employee walk by. I assumed everyone was starting to finish up their own trucks by this point, and would likely soon have to start unloading my truck as well. I was watching the minutes go by in anticipation, trying to decide if someone would come by and find me before my shift ended or not. I got my answer 15 minutes before the end of my shift, as the very same manager from before came storming through the meat department furious. We made eye contact and he stormed over to me and started yelling about how they have been calling for me to unload the truck and how they are now behind schedule and so on. Once he took a breath long enough for me to speak, I asked simply, "Can you go to a spill station and grab something to clean this up? I've been here a while now." He glanced down at the puddle next to me, and I thought he was going to explode. You mean to tell me that you didn't unload the truck because you were watching a spill? Yes. Why didn't you just clean it up? But leaving the spill would be unsafe for any customers. Besides, you wrote me up for doing that very thing recently, right? The manager tossed his hands up in defeat and walked the 15 steps away to the nearest spill station and returned with the supplies. That he promptly gave me to clean the spill myself. Once you are done, go to the back of the loading deck and start on your truck. Sorry, I have only about 10 minutes left on my shift, and as I've been standing here guarding the spill, I never got my second break. So, I'm going to the break room for a bit before clocking out. You'll need to find someone to close down my department as well. At this, the manager just stomped off in a rage. I cleaned up the spill, played on my phone in the break room for a bit, and clocked out with a smile on my face. I know that the manager just made someone else do all the work and wasn't personally affected by this, but knowing that I could be a thorn in his side was enough for me. I've got to say, that is like the perfect example of malicious compliance. Like if I was explaining what this was, I would give this story as an example. Big Bill's Revenge. I work at a service station, or petrol station in Australia. We are a fairly small store, but are right between two very wealthy neighborhoods. As such, we have a lot of rich folk coming in and paying in 100 bills, or just asking for them to be changed. We also have a strict only $200 in the till at any given time rule to prevent theft. This, of course, causes issues. For example, a guy comes in and pays a $100 bill for a coffee, and suddenly we have no change left for other customers. They have tried to combat this by saying they can only get change if you buy something, but people will just buy gum to get change. To make matters worse, we cannot drop coins into the safe. This is also made worse because unlike many service stations in the area, because we are a smaller branch, we only have a single person working at any given time. It is very time consuming to drop hundreds into the safe and buy back notes to use as change. So some of my co-workers and I have slowly begun to deter these people through the following tactic. So, a guy comes in at the head of a long line of customers. He orders a coffee for $4.75. He pulls out his wallet. I clearly see he has a bunch of 10s and 20s, but he hands me 100. This happens a lot. Sorry, but do you have anything smaller? I don't want to give you too much change. Don't say I never give people a chance. He gives me a smug grin. No, it's all I have. So, I smile, nod, and proceed to count out $96.25 in coins. All coins. Here in Australia, we have $2 coins and $1 coins, so I mainly use those up, but I have to throw in a bunch of silvers too. His face goes pale as I'm counting it out. Just give me in notes, he says desperately. I'm sorry, sir, but all we have is coins today. I know because I personally deposited most of the notes and took a ton of coins from the safe. As I'm counting, I can see him calculating his options. He could, of course, admit that he has other smaller notes, but there's a big group of people watching, and it would be embarrassing as heck. But taking home $96.25 in coins would pull his pants around his ankles with their weight no matter how tight he did his belt. Look, don't worry about it. Just give me my money back. I don't even want the dang coffee. Are you sure? I say as pleasantly as possible. Yeah. I give him his money back and he leaves. By this time, half of the customers in the line are snickering at him. I always try and have like exact change when I'm buying anything, just so the transaction goes really quick and I can just get out of there. But why wouldn't they just have like a no large bills sign? Because I'm pretty sure you can just do that and then you can't accept them. I won't move until you upgrade me. Alright. This one happened a few months ago at the airport, in Madrid, Spain. I witnessed it, but I'm not directly involved with this. I was sitting near a gate well in advance for my flight. The previous flight to use the gate was still boarding its last passengers. It was a pretty short one to Lisbon, so probably less than an hour flight time. In comes textbook Karen with her suitcase, going straight to the counter, and without any form of politeness starts complaining to one of the two gate agents. The conversation was more or less this: "I know you have a free seat in first. The airline publishes seat maps online. I am a loyal member of your airline. Can you upgrade me?" She slams a card on the counter. "I am sorry, but I cannot randomly upgrade people. Plus, you have an economy basic ticket. Even if I could, we would upgrade any standard economy passenger before you. Finally, this is a silver card. While we do have gold and platinum members on this flight, that we would also upgrade first. You have to note that European airlines typically do not automatically upgrade passengers, as in the US. Also, the difference between first and economy is usually not that much. Seats are the same, but in the front of the plane with a blocked middle seat and slightly better food. That's it. They have already boarded. If you don't upgrade me, I won't use this airline ever again." Gate Agent 2 makes an announcement about final call for passengers that Karen ignores completely. "Ma'am, I repeat that I do not have the power to upgrade anybody per airline policy. It would not be fair to those who actually paid for the ticket. The seat is free. I'm sure you can make an exception. Once again, I cannot, but I would recommend you to board no. So you will upgrade me, right?" The agent, annoyed, "For the third time, this is not something I can do. You are the last passenger we are waiting for. Can you please go to the gate?" Karen, now yelling, "I won't move from this counter until you upgrade me." You should really. Unless you are telling me I'm upgraded, I don't want to hear about it. Alright. Then passes like 1 or 2 minutes. "So, have you made up your mind and have me upgraded?" "Actually, ma'am, the gate is closed. We are not accepting late passengers anymore. I would suggest you go to the customer service desk to rebook." "What? I have been here for like 10 minutes. "Yes, but you refused twice to board the plane, and made it clear that you would not move from this desk until I upgrade you, which I told you 5 times I cannot do. We couldn't delay the plane because of you." "But you should have told me." "I'm sorry, but you made it clear that you didn't want to hear about it if it was not about your upgrade, which, once again, I cannot do." At this moment, Karen left with at the same time a defeated and infuriated look. It was pretty fun to watch, I have to say. I have no idea whether Karen could be rebooked for free, but I hope not. I mean, I can offer some good advice for getting a better ticket, but she probably might want to hear it. It's called, buying a better seat.
Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.